What's up, everyone? I was talking to someone the other day whose relationship was struggling significantly, and it hit me this might be a good lesson to share on YouTube. So here it is. If you begin a relationship from the perspective of wanting to save the other person, so in other words, maybe the person is struggling in some way, and here you come along with maybe unconditional positive regard, maybe absolute acceptance of where that person is. It helps that person to feel safe, and that's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's an absolutely, it's a pure way to approach someone. The challenge, however, becomes if you're in that relationship to help save that person, as if it's your job to save them. A couple things happen. One, you can't maintain that position for the length of the relationship. So you're not going to be able to be the savior for that person's entire life. So what happens is the relationship dynamic, the dynamics and the way you two relate to each other will change. And so oftentimes people come into therapy, for instance, and they'll say, well, this person has changed. Well, of course. Who hasn't changed? We all learn and grow and change all the time. And if you create a relationship, again, built on, I'm going to save this person, I'm going to fix this person, well, then what happens when this person actually gets fixed? Well, now they no longer need saving. So then you can feel like, oh my goodness, well, what role is there for me anymore? Because now I can't save this person. And then the relationship changes. To me, my experience, 20,000 plus hours of clinical experience counseling people, my experience has taught me overwhelmingly that when people enter relationships because one person wants to save the other person, those relationships are doomed to fail. They're either going to end up apart or they're going to end up in a really miserable relationship together. So the challenge is not right now whether you assess and say, oh no, I got in a relationship to save that person. There's still hope. Like, this is why I'm making this video. So there is hope, but the hope relies primarily on you if you are the one who's taking on that savior role, because it is your job to go inward, to come to terms with the reality that you're not your partner's savior. You are your partner's equal. You are marching side by side through this experience of life with your partner, but you are not your partner's savior. Because the only place to go from being up here as the savior is down here. And so that's not going to sit well with you. And you're obviously going to hit a point where you say, well, he's changed or she's changed. And that's very true, again, especially if they're listening to the things that you're saying that help them. So if you are in a relationship that started that way, be mindful that you're going to have to go inward. And there's a really powerful lesson in understanding this. Yes, that's going to be challenging. Yes, that's going to be difficult. But choose your heart. You can either have it be hard now and go inward and be self-reflective and really do a lot of work internally, or it can be hard later when things go differently down the road. The other thing to be mindful of is if you're not in a relationship already, or you're just beginning to connect with someone in that capacity where you're really being helpful for that person and you're really thinking, well, I can just help this person get to where I want him or her to be, then be mindful that that relationship will ultimately be doomed to fail. Too many times people come into therapy and say, I don't understand why this person changed. Well, because life absolutely gives us opportunities to learn and grow. And change is the only constant. So of course, your relationship has changed. You cannot maintain what's referred to as the honeymoon period for your entire relationship. It's just not possible, because your interactions change. The more you learn about someone, you deepen you heighten your experience of that individual. It's not going to be the just pure bliss and just block out the things that you don't want to know about that person. Eventually, to have a beautiful, long-term, committed relationship, it is going to be so important for you to fully accept a person for who he or she is and not just accept that person for what you want them to be. So, if you're in a relationship trying to save the other person, be mindful. If you are not in the relationship yet and you're being helpful and you're saving this person, then be mindful not to take it to that next step and make it a romantic relationship. And if you do, it is going to be so wise for you to understand, sit back and reflect on the reality that you will not be able to hold that state forever. There's a saying in family therapy called, when the patient gets better, the family gets sick. And I want to explain that to you, what they mean by that. I think it came out of it from like the 1960s or something like that. And what the statement referred to was this. Usually in any family system, there is an identified patient. So the reason why someone comes to therapy, they bring this person in. Hey, this is the bad child or whatever. And so then they come into therapy and they learn, wait a minute, there's not a bad child. We all contribute to these interactions. And then maybe even the child gets healthier. And so now when the child gets healthier, for many families, their role of using this child as the scapegoat, their role as saying that their family problems all stem from this one person. Well, when this person gets healthy, now they can't blame this person for things anymore. Well, now the family starts to crumble. And that's why the statement, when the patient gets better, the family gets sick, comes into play. Because people don't know what to do with their roles. We all have roles in our relationships. That's just a natural part of human connection. When you're in a relationship, you have a role. Whatever you define those roles are, that's fine. But the reality is we have roles. Those roles do change throughout time, especially if someone is struggling. Because as you know, in your own life, you've had moments where you've struggled. You've had darker moments, you've had lighter moments. And so when there is someone in a relationship, again, to sum this all up, and that person's struggling, and you're helpful for that person, eventually that person will get healthy. That's the goal, right? To help them get healthy. And when they're healthy, they're no longer going to be in a role of needing someone to swoop in and save them. And so the dynamic, the interaction will absolutely change. Please be mindful of that. Because if you're not mindful of that, I'm just being honest, and I'm saying that a relationship like that is doomed to fail, either to be apart one day or to be together but highly miserable, because one or both of the partners is constantly playing over and over again in their minds, I wish this person was different, I wish things were going differently. And over, the more you do that, the more miserable relationships become. I hope this is helpful, because I want to see you have success individually and in your relationships. Until next time, as always, I wish you much peace.